Students of ninth class, let us study history, chapter 7, medieval India, the Cholas. Earlier in the unit test, we studied about the Sangam age in the ancient period, where we could see the Cheras, the Pandyas, and the Cholas in tussle with each other. And in this part, mostly we will see the Chola kingdom in the southern part because we have entered in the medieval period. Because medieval period begins in India from 8th century. So here we have the syllabus of medieval India, the introduction, the Cholas. Then we will be looking for only inscriptions and Brideshwara temple. We shall avoid political history and jump over to the administration of Rajaraja I. Students, the southern part of Indian peninsula, in the southern part, were mostly occupied the Dravidians. Dravidians were the people who earlier lived in northern India, and then they later, after coming the Aryans, they shifted themselves to southern part. So this region, uh, the southern part of India, mostly this part, were ruled by Cheras, Pandyas, and the Cholas. But in the Chola Empire, which arose in 19th century, became prominent. The Cholas developed powerful navy which enabled them to develop India's sea trade further to Sri Lanka, Maldives, and so on. So straightway we'll move to the inscription. The main source of information for the history of India period is large number of inscription of that period. This is what we get knowledge about the medieval period, about the Cholas from the inscriptions. Now, what kind of inscriptions were there? The inscriptions of the Cholas are in the form of copper plates, grants, stone inscriptions, and inscription made on the walls and pillars of the temple. So, three types: copper plates, grants, stone inscriptions, and inscriptions made on the walls. The copper plate grants known as a anvil. No need this part. We will just come to know three types of inscription, and we'll see there what information they give us. The inscription provide the following information. They tell us about the Chola administration. They tell us about the Chola administration and the village administration mostly, and also taxation and land revenue. They record gifts, endowments to temples and Brahmins. Copper plate inscription are the records of grants of villages. So that's clear. Now, third point, they inform us about the construction of a temple or the setting up of a new image of the deity. Okay, so whatever god and goddesses statue has to be erected in the temple, we come to know from the inscriptions. Some inscriptions have royal orders. That means orders from the king or the officials on taxation and land revenue. Orders for the taxation and land revenue. Resolution of village assembly judgment delivered against person guilty of theft. So this everything was inscribed on the inscription. Sorry, these plates, copper plates. Inscription on temple walls served as a purpose of public registration. Further, we have Brideshwara temple. So you can see this is a Brideshwara temple and this is a Gopuram, gateway of Brideshwara temple. So it is situated in Thanjavur. Now, I already told you gateway of the temple was called Gopuram. Okay, so The images of gods and goddesses were kept. These images were made either of stone or bronze. So these are the 2 3 points you remember. Then there was a mandapa, the audience hall in the temple. The chief features of Chola temples are their massive vimanas or the towers and spacious courtyard where the people used to gather together for some melas, fair, meetings, and so on. Further, Brideshwara also is known as Rajeshwara temple, dedicated to Lord Shiva. This is a very important point. This temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva. Okay, and it is built by Raja I. So it is one of the best specimen of the Dravidian style architecture. This we have to remember. This Brideshwara temple is made of Dravidian style. The main structure of the temple is great Vimana. Okay, that you see the points here. Okay, and there is also Shiv Lingam kept there around 8.87 meters high. Now we will shift ourselves to administration. Like Guptas, in the southern part we had administration. There was a central government, okay, wholly ruled by and administered by the king. Further, there were princes associated with the ruling sovereign. Sovereign means the king, the powerful figure. There was a central government, and all external defense, internal peace, order, everything belonged to the central government. And this further kingdom was divided into provinces, so many provinces. Okay, and the royal family used to be the governor of those provinces. And then the Cholas were very expert administrators, and they believed in local government, local self-government. That means the government of the villages. In many of the villages, the administration was carried out not by the government official but by the villages. So there are 3 types of Sabha: Ur, the Sabha, and the Nagaram. Okay, so you remember these points. Then further, the Ur was a common type of assembly of the villages. The Sabha was an exclusively Brahmin assembly of the villages. The Nagaram was an assembly of merchants. So see different. It's a very good point. Sabha of Brahmins and the Nagaram of merchants. Further, students, the temples in the Chola kingdom was a center of social activity. So many activities used to take place. I told you already, the fair used to take place, melas, different meetings. Education was given by the Brahmins, by the Pandits to the students. And these temples also helped. Some temples owned huge land and participated in inland overseas trade also. So in some cases, instead of giving land to temples, land revenue of certain villages were assigned to the temples. So this was the role of the temples. Further, revenue. The revenue of the Chola kingdom came from taxes on land and the produce of the land and the tax on trade. So this was the revenue system. So that's all from this chapter. Prepare the question answer well. If there is any doubt, you can clear up in the online classes. Thank you.